Hello, this is Shannon Lane. I'm the instructor for PM 111, Project Risk and Quality Management. I'm here today to have some real world conversations with my good friend Carol Taylor, who's going to talk to us about risk and quality management. Carol, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I will. Thank you. My name is Carol Taylor. I have worked for over 35 years in the chemical manufacturing industry. I've worked in several different disciplines and in different capacities in over those years. I have worked as a discipline lead on large projects for the past 15 years, and I currently am a technical lead for a business in my discipline, and I'm also a project manager.
Thank you. All right, let's get started. Okay, Carol, let's get started with risk. Tell me how you first began your discovery of risk and its importance.
So when I started doing projects in a more lead capacity, I really didn't care, to be honest with you. I didn't care. I didn't understand. Risk to me meant something very different than it is for an overall project. I was strictly looking at my piece of the puzzle. And so getting involved, making sure I was in meetings that I was in steering team meetings, I was in meetings with all the disciplines. That helped me understand where I fit in. And of course, failing to miss a schedule, failing to miss money, going back and having to ask for more money because we didn't manage the risk. That's always the case. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us learn that way. But we don't want everybody to learn that way. And so I just started paying attention to how I fit in to the rest of the disciplines, how I fit into schedule. And I broadened my definition of risk. I was very limited in what I thought risk was. And taking a step back and looking at it from a project perspective, not negating the risks of your discipline or of your function, but knowing that you fit into this puzzle with everyone else, that was critical.
Okay, Carol, let's talk a little bit about your work process around risk and risk mitigation.
So in my company, we have a formalized work process. And over the years, risk management has become a pillar of that, as we've learned that if you don't manage your risks, if you don't define them, you can't do anything about them. You're basically running amok of sorts. And so, um, following our work process. So, if your company has a work process, you need to follow it. You need to go in and look at it and ask yourself, what are my risks? And then one of the things that we do is we define who needs to be there in those meetings. And this needs to be done early on. It's not something you can do once you've got your funding. This is something that you want to do early on, and you want to make sure you have the right people there. And so it's something that we also continue is built in to our meeting templates that we review. And so it's really part of our work process. And again, I think we've all learned over time that how important it was and why it is so important within our work process that we manage that. And again, it comes back to learning that risk is important and what your risks are and getting outside of your natural inclination of what you think risk is.
Okay, Carol, let's talk about what are the most important parts of managing risk for you?
So the most important items to me are number one, getting your risk identified early as much as you can. Make sure that you have the right people when you're identifying risks. Also, think outside the box. You can have a process, you can have a little piece of paper that tells you exactly who's supposed to be there, But it's been my experience that every single project I've ever done has always been different. And don't get lulled into, oh, I have a check sheet, I have a spreadsheet, I have a check sheet, I have something to go by. No, make sure that you think, especially each discipline, don't rely on your project manager or your project engineer, or even your lead. This can also go down into a new hire. When I coach people, I tell them as soon as you come in, I start talking to them about being a project manager or being a lead. You start thinking about your risk, how your piece can impact the rest of the project. The second is resources. A lot of times we think, oh, we can just get those anywhere, anytime. No, you need the right ones. You need them on time. And sometimes we have to contract that out. And so that can impact cost. It can impact schedule. Do you have the available resources? Do you have them when you need it? Get those commitments up front and in writing, that they're done. The next one is communicate. And we go, oh, that's so typical. That's a communicate. Oh, wow. No, the higher up you go, the more you need to understand who your stakeholders are. So as a lead, a discipline lead, early on, my stakeholders were not higher up. It was the person next door, or maybe even myself. I was managing this small project myself. But the further up you get, the bigger these projects go, the change in communication. They may not want all the details if you're a detail-oriented person like I am. Just recently told the other day, Carol, no, they only care about this. Um, you start learning how to communicate and what people need to know and when they need to know. And then the last thing is understand how important your job is as a project manager, as a discipline lead, that this is someone's giving you money and time in this project to do, and and enjoy it, and enjoy and embrace that you have the opportunity to do this and build on it, learn the skills that you need.